So the primary component of all of our architectural projects is going to be the wall. So in Autodesk Revit, we create walls by using the wall tool found on the architecture ribbon. So I'm going to select the wall tool, and I'm going to notice a couple of things. First of all, Revit is asking me to click where I want to start the wall. So all I have to do is left click somewhere in the drawing editor to actually start creating a wall. But before I do that, I need to make some decisions about the wall that I'm wanting to create. Under the Properties palette, there's a little drop down arrow here, and this is all the types of walls that exist in the drawing at the moment. So I can choose to draw any one of these walls. In this case, maybe I'm just going to pick a 4-inch generic wall. So I've selected that wall. I can start drawing the wall, but before I do that, I'm going to look at some of these properties about the wall. So the base constraint, that's where the bottom of the wall lies. So the bottom of the wall will be at level 1, and the top of the wall will be up to level 2. Think of this as being level 1 being the finished floor and level 2 being the finished ceiling height. So if we wanted those walls to be taller and not go, we can unconnect them and specify the height here. We could also do that in the options bar across the top. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and leave it up to level 2. And I have the location line, which helps me place the dimensions for the walls. So in architectural drafting, external walls are dimensioned to the outside of the structural member. So if this is your standard 2x4 wood framed wall, the external dimension that locates that wall would go to the outside of that 2x4 stud. So that would be considered the core face exterior. And if I want to continue to draw multiple walls, I want the chain to be selected, and I could also do some offsets here. But I'm going to leave these defaults alone, and I'm going to draw a small structure by left clicking in the drawing editor, and I'm going to move the cursor straight up and see the dotted lines. That's like your ortho mode. It indicates that you're at 90-degree angles. And Revit is kind of unique in that it works with feet and inches, which is a little bit different than what you've worked with in the other applications so far. So in Revit, we're going to enter how many feet, space, how many inches. So if I want this wall to be 20 feet, 6 inches, I'm going to type in 20, press the space bar, type in 6, press the enter key, and that wall is now 20 feet, 6 inches long. So I'm going to move over to the right, and maybe I want this one to be 17 feet, 6 inches long. So I'm going to type in 17. I don't have to put the foot symbol there. I just have to put the space and then the inches. And I can also track, just like in AutoCAD, I can track and square this building up with my object snaps without typing in any additional numbers. So now we've created the walls, a small little structure here, and the walls are starting at the level 1 and they're ending at level 2. I'm going to switch to an elevation view to kind of help you better see that. So I'm going to go to my project browser under elevations. I'm going to double click the south elevation, and now you can see what this wall looks like from the south side. And you can see that the walls are starting on level 1 and they're ending on level 2. Some of the properties that we can change for this wall might be this base offset. If I needed the wall to drop down, say 6 inches, I could put a base offset of minus, because I want it to go down, 0 feet, space 6 inches, and pick apply, and you can see that part of that wall now goes below 6 inches below the level 1. I could select all my walls here, and I could also do the same thing with a top offset. So maybe I wanted the top to extend above level 2 by 2 feet. So I could change that value, and now you can see that the walls are 2 feet above level 2. So I can control how those walls appear quite readily there. So I'm going to switch back into my floor plan, level 1. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about creating custom walls. So like I said, the walls are the basic components of all your structures. And there are a number of walls that are available in the template that you choose to start with, and as you get more experienced you will make decisions to add walls to your template files that you use on a routine basis so you don't have to reconstruct those. But I'm going to select on the wall tool again, and I have the basic wall generic 4-inch brick selected, so I'm going to pick on the edit type. And so these are type properties. So I can change these properties. These are type properties. The properties found in the properties palette here, these are called instance properties. I can change these properties without really affecting the structure of the wall. But when I change type properties, I'm really actually changing something significant about the wall. One thing that we can do when we go to create new walls is we can find one that's similar and just pick the duplicate. So I'm going to pick duplicate, and I'm going to name this one 1/2 drywall 2x4 stud air gap and brick. I guess I want to go in here and actually do a 3/4 OSB and an air gap and brick. So I'm kind of describing the components of the wall. So I'll pick OK, and notice that now my new type is showing up here. So the type that I named this is kind of a long complex name, and the names don't have to be this complex, but the more descriptive they are, the better off they can help you down the road. So I'm calling this 1/2 drywall 2x4 stud 3/4 OSB air gap and brick. So that's the components that I'm going to put on this wall. So under the type properties there's a structure. So I'm going to select the edit the structure, and I'm going to create more components to this wall. So the structural component I'm going to insert into there, and I'm going to change my new component to be material is going to be wood. So I select the material type, and I'm going to scroll down my materials list, and just softwood lumber will be fine. So I'll select softwood lumber, pick OK, and the thickness of my 2x4 stud, 2x4 stud is actually 3.5 inches, so I'm going to put 0 space 3.5. I'm going to move the brick, so I've selected the brick, and I'm going to move it up outside of the core boundary. I'm going to insert another layer here, and it's not going to be structure, but it's going to be substrate. And the material for it is going to be the OSB. So I'm going to go over here to my materials, select wood, and down toward the bottom of this list I should find an OSB oriented strand board. Add that into my document and pick OK. And it has a thickness of 3/4 inch, so I'm going to put 0 space 0.75. And again, I'm going to move it outside, move it up so that it's not in the core boundary. The brick is no longer structural, but it's actually a finish. I'm going to put in another component. It's not going to be structural, but it's going to be thermal, and it's just going to be an air gap. So I'm going to put in a 1-inch air gap. So I should have air in here somewhere, and it's going to be 1 inches, so it's going to be 0, 1, and it's between the OSB and the brick. And now there's one more part I'm going to put in here. It's going to be on the inside, interior. We'll move it down. It's also going to be a finish, and the material for it will be a gypsum board. So this is drywall, gypsum wallboard, and it's going to be a 1/2 inch. So I'm going to put 0 space 0.5. And all along I could have had the preview turned on here, so you can preview what the wall looks like. So here the red is the brick, the white is the air gap, the gray is the OSB, the yellow is the softwood lumber, and the drywall. And we could also look at it in section going the other way. So here you have the brick, air gap, OSB, 2x4, drywall. So that's a great wall. So this is pretty commonly used on the exterior wall. So we're going to pick OK. OK. And I'm just going to draw one wall here. I'm going to select my original walls. So I'm going to right click and pick cancel. Go back to these walls, and I can change those to my new type. And I can erase this little piece of one here. And if I zoom in, I don't see a lot of detail, and that's because my resolution is set to coarse level. So this little icon here next to the scale, I can change that to fine, and now I can see the differences between the bricks and the board and the drywall and everything. So those are some things to help you build better walls. We're going to also have you build an interior wall, which just would be the drywall on both sides with the 2x4 stud. So that's going to be one of your assignments. If you have any questions, give me a call or send me an email. Hopefully this will help you be able to construct your walls. Thanks.